I think the 20s, the question for the 20s is who am I? And the question for your 30s is what do I want?
Yeah.
Like what do I want is in your 20s too.
40s, I'm tired.
I've had enough. I've had enough. Can we push pause?
My hip hurts.
All right. Something that I've thought about you from the first time I met you is that you are just so comfortable as who you are.
Interesting.
In every way. And maybe if I'm misreading that and you don't feel like that's accurate, but and not everybody on the planet, no matter their job or what they do or who they are, feels like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable in who I am.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Have you always been that way? Were you ever someone who were like, I don't know who I am. I feel lost. Or are you someone who were like, I don't know that I want to be who I am? Or because I only ask because you are so very much yourself.
Yeah.
And so you're just so awesome as yourself.
Thank you.
And I want people who listen who may be feeling lost in themselves to go, it's okay to be yourself. I want to know if you've always been that way.
Yeah. And so, it was just interesting to hear because I'm always curious how people perceive me, because I just, to me, I'm like, oh, just kind of, this is me, like I'm just sort of this, I don't know really how to be anything else. I mean, I play these characters and I can go into these different worlds, but it's never occurred to me to be anybody else but myself. Maybe that's from laziness. I'm like, this is what you see is what you get. But I don't know. There's a couple of things that might lead to that. I am comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not living in a world. I know what I look like. I know what my shortcomings are. I know there's a lot of stuff to work on. I certainly look in the mirror and go, oh, I'm so fat. Like I gotta, I pull it together. Like I'm like everybody else in that regard. But at the end of the day, I do like myself and I'm grateful for that because I know that is so hard. And I see like the most gorgeous people that have so much going for them. They're so smart, hate themselves. And I'm like, oh, I hate that for them because, we can see so many great things in other people and you want so bad for them to see that in themselves. So I think mine comes from, I had a really special grandmother who I was like so close to, like kind of soulmates in a weird way. Who I spent much of my childhood kind of like her shadow. And she just gave me this like unconditional love of like you're good. And she made me feel like I'm good, and she gave me a real solid foundation of like of just like being happy with who I was. And so that meant a lot. She passed away when I was 18. And that was a tough thing, but what she did for me in those early years really set me up in a really special way for my life. And my mom has plenty of shortcomings that she'll be the first to tell people about as well, but she has a genuine like of herself, even in spite of all of our shortcomings. So that probably helps me too. And she also had the foundation of my grandmother, who was an unconditional love person for her. So I think, having someone in your corner that gives you that kind of love is really important, and they're not nitpicking at you. And my grandmother was never, there was, like, there's an extreme of it of like where you're making someone delusional.
Right.
It was not like that.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's not that you could do no wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that you knew at the core that she loved you exactly as you were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there were definitely times growing up where, I've always been a big girl. I've always been overweight, and that never felt good. As a kid, you get picked on sometimes. And I certainly, not knowing I was gay for a long time was hard because boys, I was not the object of their affection. And there is a part of your childhood where you go, what is wrong with me? Why does this guy not want to, talk to me, and you think something's wrong with you. So I certainly had plenty of times where I felt really terrible about myself because I thought something was wrong with me. And I think coming out did a lot for my self-esteem, and it is why I am so verbal in my stand-up and my message of like representation matters. I didn't have a lot of representation growing up. If I can be some sort of representation for people, I'll take it, because coming out, I just felt like I finally know who I am. And it was the greatest relief and sense of like everything makes sense now, that it just freed me in a way that I can't describe. And I think that also added a layer to it.
Yeah. Your grandmother probably set the stage for when you were finally ready, or that happened, that you were like, okay, I'm good. Honesty is the only way to live your life.
Yeah.
And we're taught sometimes not to be honest, just to be able to fit into social norms. Even, you know, I was always a tomboy. I was always filthy dirty.
Really?
Yes. And not girly, no dresses. My mom almost insisted that I always wear a dress. And, you know, my parents divorced. And when I go to my dad's, he did not give a shit what I looked like, how I dressed, what food I ate. I never put shoes on from Friday afternoon when he picked me up till Sunday when he dropped me off.
Yeah.
And when you get a certain age, that doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. It's too threatening to girls, and it's too threatening to boys.
Interesting.
And so then you go, well, I got nobody. And even into my young adultness, I felt lost for different reasons than what you just described.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand what you mean. And then when you get really honest with yourself, you can go, oh, well, this is really actually not a big deal at all.
Yeah. Once you kind of like live your truth, you're just like, no one can take that away from me.
That's right.
And when you don't know who you are and suddenly discover who you are, there's such a power in that that I started comedy and came out in the same year.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think it's a coincidence. And I feel like who I am from that day forward is totally different than who I was pre that time. I'm a totally different person than I was pre that mid-20s era.
I think everything you described is what I would like my kids to know is your 20s.
Yeah.
100%. Because even though I like men, I always have, I didn't know what kind of man I liked.
Yeah.
So my whole 20s was like, well, I'm going to date this guy. That's not it. Yeah. Everybody I dated before Bert was nothing like Bert.
Really?
Straight laced, 3-piece suit type, buttoned up. I was the loud one. I was the funny one. I was the I was the creative one because I was a writer. And I never dated anybody like Bert. And I spent that whole time going, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Why can't I figure out what's going on here? Why am I going from writing to acting to writing to all this stuff? But I think that's what you're supposed to be doing in your 20s, right?
For sure. No one has it figured out. I mean,
nobody.
There's still things I don't have figured out where I'm trying to, you know, I'm always like, I got to get my life together, you know, and like other people can look on the outside looking in and being like, oh, you got it so together, but you feel discombobulated at different times in your life. But the 20s are for sure the time where you should be like trying on different hats, experiencing different things. You're going to have different jobs, date different people. So like not having pressure on yourself to get it right.
Yeah.
So many people we're just trying.
Yes.
We're just trying to figure it out.
Just humaning it.
Like
humaning it up.
Give yourself some like grace, right?
Some grace. I know. I think the 20s, the question for the 20s is who am I? And the question for your 30s is what do I want?
Yeah.
Like what do I want is in your 20s too.
40s, I'm tired.
I've had enough. I've had enough. Can we push pause?
My hip hurts.
All right.